Indiana Jones is back as a grumpy old fart playing a Harrison Ford type of character. This time, he's got a savvy Mary Sue, accomplice, to stop a bunch of goose-stepping dickheads from time travelling. It's a race against time to track down two pieces of a MacGuffin. Strap yourself in for one last adventure with Indiana Jones Back to the Fuhrer. Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Boy Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. That's right, the fifth installment of Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Directed by not Steven Spielberg, James Mangold. He's an accomplished filmmaker in his own right, with some absolute bangers under his belt. Films like Walk the Line, Logan, and Ford vs. Ferrari. We open this film on a classic Indiana Jones-style adventure, all set in World War II, where a TikTok-filtered Harrison Ford is boarding the CGI'd Polar Express. He's trying to stop a bunch of Yahtzees from taking a time-travelling advice back to Adolf. Here we are introduced to the MacGuffin of the story, the Dial of Destiny.
I'm your density. Your destiny.
This contraption was invented by Greek mathematician Archimedes. And then we flash forward to a current day Disney film, where we flash forward to Indian current day 60s, where he's old, washed up, old, an alcoholic, old and grumpy. And did I mention old? Because if Disney has taught us anything, that our 80s action stars all become a piece of shit. We learn that Indy is retiring from being a professor. We also find out that Marion and him are getting a divorce, because that storyline works so well with Han Solo and Princess Leia. Then Fleabag shows up. Turns out that she's Indiana Jones's goddaughter here, and she rocks up really excited about her father's obsession, the Dial of Destiny.
I'm your density.
This is until Nazis show up and try and take the device for themselves. But Fleabag's having none of it! She betrays Indy, gets the device, and flees. Bag. Our hero, everybody! Indy then tracks her down in Tangier because he's fucking awesome, and discovers Helena, who is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character here, she has like an underground black market where she auctions off antiquities. She's a scoundrel, you see, only out for the money. This sounds familiar. Anyway, then the German Socialist Party show up to fuck things up. And then we get an Indiana Jones adventure created by AI. It's action sequence, exposition dump. Action sequence, exposition dump. Action sequence, exposition dump. And this goes on for 2.5 hours. Why? I will say though, in the action sequences, I did actually enjoy the chase scene in Tangier. It's probably the closest feeling I had to an Indiana Jones film, and that's including the opening sequence. Yes, there was some CGI fuckery in the chase scene in Tangier, but less so than the Polar Express train sequence at the beginning. I was really worried about this film before it came out, because to say that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the previous installment, was a disappointment is massive understatement. It was saturated with cartoony CGI, and Indy was very old in that film, and they kept calling out how old he was all the time. And that film was in 2008! I mean, he was old then, 15 years later, but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull felt like it was Indy paint by numbers, like Steven Spielberg was on autopilot. Which is weird because the old movies, the original trilogy, these bad boys, they felt real and tangible. They were real movies. But yeah, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was cartoon CGI, and this one felt less cartoony, I suppose, with the filters that they were using, but making Indy sad, old, and divorcing Marion and losing someone to the Vietnam War was just a bad decision. Oh yeah, and did I mention he's a full-blown alcoholic? I do think that Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this film is very miscast. She's good in her lane, what she works with, sort of like quirky, left-of-centre comedies. But in no way does she suit this adventure action film. I didn't even really like the character, to be honest with you. I thought it was just not very well written. And there's nothing wrong with giving Indy an accomplice or a sidekick, because in every film he kind of has one. Like I said, I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge was very miscast here. Didn't really suit the role. I think to make the role work, besides it being better written, you need sort of like a Rachel Weisz-esque sort of actor. Also, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character had a sidekick as well. I can't remember his name, honestly, but I'm just going to call him Bum Fluff Moustache, who's totally not Short Round 2.0. This character's very forgettable, very annoying, very pouty. At least Short Round was adorable and funny. Mads Mikkelsen, of course, is the bad guy here. He's solid, everything. You just rock up and just read the script on the day, say the lines in front of the character, and he's going to be fucking awesome. Also, Sala returns, and I've got to say, for his couple of cameos, it was pretty sad. He's now a cab driver in New York, living in a tiny little apartment with his grandchildren. What the fuck? His cameo is an imperfect encapsulation of why Indiana Jones doesn't work in this time setting, the 60s. Indy is Adventure Man in the 1930s, a harken back to the old serials of the day. You know, the world seemed larger in life and undiscovered back then. Now we have Indy and Sala here, broken down old men trying to deal with the new wave. It doesn't fit and it feels really sad. The original films were a love letter to a bygone era of filmmaking. Now these characters have to deal with hippies, political correctness, and politics, because that's going to be in every fucking film now. This film felt less like an Indiana Jones installment and more of an epilogue of the series. A side adventure for Indy, if you will, not necessarily a fifth installment. You could say this is a swan song, I'd say it's more of a lame duck. Indiana Jones is one of the greatest movie characters of all time. His movies have provoked wonder, entertainment, and is the imperfect encapsulation of old Hollywood. Very much like James Bond in a way. But like I said, this film is more of an epilogue than an installment of the series. This film is The Godfather 3 to Indiana Jones movies. Do with that what you will. In saying all that though, I didn't hate this film as much as I thought I would. At times I preferred Crystal Skull. At other times I preferred this film. Oh, and spoiler alert! The one scene that Marion shows up at the very end, that scene got me. This film is bittersweet. The adventure is over. Indy is a man that the world doesn't want anymore. And honestly, I had a sense of melancholy as I walked out of the cinema. Like I said, I didn't completely hate the film, but it was like, yeah, that happened. I might watch this film one more time, and that might be it. I don't believe it has much staying power. I'll be watching these bad boys way more often than this one. Indiana Jones, fare thee well, sweet prince. Thank you for my childhood, Mr. Jones. Now you can rest. Now, what do you have in your deck, Kathleen Kennedy? You've played all your hands. Now you have to stop dipping into the pile of originality that George and Stephen created. Time to show your quality. Do you have anything original? Time will tell. Anyway, guys, that's my review of Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. It happened, it's done, there is going to be no more Indiana Jones films. In fact, I don't think there should have been any after 3, but here we are. But write down if you're excited about this film, guys. Write down below if you've seen it and what are your thoughts on it. But more importantly, write down below what's your favourite installment in the franchise and why is it only out of the first 3? But of course, if you like what you've seen and you heard, please give me a thumbs up because your love and support keeps me going, because I just love movies and I assume you do as well. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe icon because I give it an episode weekly, and I'll see you back here next week for the next review, and until then, stay spooky, kids.